Shalom from Jerusalem. This is Israel at War, an update on TV7 News Israel. Season's greetings to our viewers around the world as well as in the Holy Land. I am Amir Oren, sitting in for the traveling Jonathan Hessen. And with us are two distinguished reserve brigadier generals in the Israeli Air Force, Doron Gavish and Relik Shafir. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. General Gavish, you probably know that millions of Israelis have been given a wake-up call around 4:30 or 40 Yemen mean time. And by mean, I mean that they are really mean, the Houthis. They have been launching ballistic missiles and drones at Israel almost nightly now. The most recent one has been intercepted successfully. Some of the debris from the interceptor missile fell in central Israel without causing major damage or casualties. But what can be done regarding this nuisance?
Well, you're right, Amir. This is exactly what we have seen last night during the early hours. It was around 4:10, if I remember right, that we intercepted a missile, a ballistic missile that was shot from Iran. I'm sorry, from Yemen. And there were some debris that fell in the ground, but without causing any damages. Yemen became an issue now. This is for sure. The answer is probably a combination of, I would say, few angles that we all have to look at. The first one, of course, is the defense, robust defense, in order to make sure that we are intercepting the vast majority of those missiles. Sorry, as we said, there is no 100%. And we do see in the last few months and also in the last few weeks that overall we are intercepting more than 90% of those missiles that are being shot toward Israel. We always say that the defense of Israel is a combination between active intercepting those missiles and also listening to those orders that are being issued by the Home Front Command, going into the shelters, and by this saving life of Israelis. Fortunately enough, there was no one that was heavily injured from all those missiles that were shot from Yemen. But we have to remember that a lot of Israelis in the middle of the night have to wake up, go to the shelters. This is nothing that we could tolerate for a long time. So this is for the defense. And as I said, the answer is a combination between saving life on the defense, but also in the offensive side. And I think that probably if this is what would be continuing from the Houthis, we would see more and more offensive operations. We saw it by the coalition forces. In the last week, we saw it from Israel. Unfortunately, at this point, at least, the Houthis are not deterred, which means that the force must be probably even more than what it was up till now. And we all have to remember that there is also a link, a direct link between Iran and the Houthis, and all the options are really open.
General Shafir, this is day 446 of the war, which started on October the 7th last year by the horrendous massacre perpetrated by Hamas. And then, of course, Hezbollah joined the fight, the Houthis, as well as Iran itself. Can Israel sustain such a war of attrition for long?
Most definitely so. Let's say that they fire once every 2 or 3 nights, days or nights. Technically, we can shoot down their missiles in order to be more sure that our citizens are not threatened by those missiles, we could fire them earlier and more missiles per attack. And by that, reduce the idea of putting everybody into shelters. So technically, we'd pay a little, it's more expensive because you fire expensive missiles. Maybe some of them you don't know that you're going to hit the target and you're already firing another one. But this is one way of dealing with this. So is it sustainable? It is sustainable. As Doron had mentioned, nobody was killed by the missiles fired by the Houthis, or for that matter, by the way, from Iran either. So technically it is possible, but obviously Israel cannot tolerate this for other reasons, strategically, image-wise, etc. So now we have to concentrate on intelligence from Yemen, just to make the comparison. Let's say that these were fired from either Syria or Lebanon. We have a constant intelligence vigilance over that area in different ways and could easily detect this pretty huge missile when it's taken out of its hiding and getting ready to shoot. But way out there in the south, it's a lot more difficult and needs attention that is more difficult to pursue at a short notice. And short notice means that we have to cooperate, obviously, with the American forces, but they don't have this kind of coverage in that area either. So it's shifting a lot of intelligence resources that area. Not sure it's worthwhile, and we can contain them in other ways.
General Gavish, we'll go back to the Air Force in a moment, but let's turn to one of the ground arenas around Israel, Syria. We have heard reports earlier today, and they followed similar reports from a few days ago of some friction between residents of Syrian villages in the area adjacent to the boundary between the countries, which the Israel Defense Forces have gone into in order to establish some forward defense, lest the various terror organizations take advantage of the disintegration of the Syrian army and pose a danger to Israel. So it seems as if the earlier expectation that Israel could be there without any response from whoever is on the eastern side of the border were premature. Is that going to be a problem going forward throughout the harsh conditions of winter?
Amir, this is another good question, and I think that we have to look on the Israeli interest and imagine yourself that the Israeli IDF was not in this DMZ. We might find all those guys in our borders. And this is exactly the reason why Israel decided that he would be in the DMZ, at least until there would be a force which is acceptable that could make sure that this area would stay militarized. We have to remember that in Syria, what we have today is fanatic Islamists. We don't know exactly where they're going to. We know their background. We know what they did in the past. We can't know what would be in the future. We could hope for the best, but we can't take any chances. Of course, taking the lesson learned of the 7th of October. Therefore, there is no question that we are going to stay there. We are going to stay in this area until there would be an agreement that would make sure that the lives of Israelis from ground penetration won't be in risk, mainly in the Golan Heights.
Switching to another front, General Gavish, the West Bank, or particularly the city of Tulkarem. Overnight, there was another IDF operation to uproot terror. And this time around, the IDF announced that one of the armored vehicles hit an explosive charge placed by the terrorists. And in this vehicle were the division commander for the area, a brigadier general, and the brigade commander for this particular sector, a full colonel, Ayub Kayuf, who earlier was in charge of the Air Force's commando unit, Shaldag. And Colonel Kayuf was wounded. He received medium class wounds. Does it make sense for such senior officers to lead their men? We know that several officers of this class, this rank, were killed. Others were wounded throughout the fighting on October the 7th itself, and then later. Doesn't the IDF lose a lot of their experience in leading troops when they are being so much forward rather than leading from behind?
Well, Amir, this is the leadership ethos of the IDF. Commanders, they go in front of the forces. You're right that we did suffer some high leaders and colonels and lieutenant colonels that were injured, and some of them even killed during this war. But there is no alternative from the way that we see it in Israel. The commanders should be there in the front, leading their forces. This is what you expect from a military officer. By the way, we do it in the ground, in the sea, and also in the air. The ones that are in the lead of the formation would be always the senior officer who is leading this formation. So it's not only an ethos, by the way. This is how we believe that we should fight. This is also a lesson learned from our history. When the commanders are there, they are saving lives because they are taking the right decisions. They are saving life because they are the most professional in the area and can take the best decision with regards to the fight. So combined all of these, this is why the commanders are there. And unfortunately, some of the times it takes its toll.
So this is the perfect segue, General Shafir, for returning to the Air Force in this conversation. You probably recall one of the most delightful and proud moments in your career, almost 42 years ago, when you had your wings graduating from your class of aviation cadet school. Today, there was another such class. Your class was, if one recalls, number 70, wasn't it?
That's right.
Today, the Air Force had class number 189. So many pilots and navigators and other aviation professionals have been through the gates of the aviation school, of the flight school. And today, the IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, paid tribute to the air crews, the ground crews. He particularly mentioned the medevac helicopter crews, as well as their medical rescue professionals, some of whom lost their lives as they tried to extricate the wounded from Gaza and other sectors. How central was and is the Air Force in this phase of the war? Obviously, on October the 7th, it was not called upon soon enough to help the fight. Later on, it was. But right now, as we are no longer in major combat operations, how central is the Air Force's role in the fight?
Well, let me just start off by saying that together with the start of the end of Flight Academy, my eldest grandson just joined the Medivac Unit 669 in training as an 18-year-old youngster. But going back to your question, the Air Force is the main, I would say, theme of the Israeli military, taking into consideration the geography of Israel and the demography, which means that Israel has very short topographical boundary borders. That means that within 5 minutes, Israel can be covered from east to west and maybe 10 minutes from north to south, so that it is very vulnerable to enemy attack. Doesn't matter who is actually living in that country. So the Air Force, being able to project its power very quick to the border area and able to push advancing forces quickly from attacking Israel, is the main force of the IDF. A lot of money was invested in the Air Force, and the Air Force was allowed to select anybody it feels that can be a pilot from new conscripts. This has been actually the mainstay of the IDF for 75 years. And we owe this wisdom to the lessons learned from the Battle of Britain. Remember that Ezer Weitzman, who's one of the legendary Air Force commanders, was part of the RAF during the Second World War. And the Israeli Air Force was built along the lines of the RAF, meaning that the Air Force can be launched within minutes to any danger, and within a few hours can be in full force for whatever mission is needed, whichever distance from the border. So this has been the legacy of the Air Force since 1948, when Ezer Weitzman himself was part of a 4-ship that stopped the Egyptians from advancing within Israel during the War of Independence. Our days, any threat that comes either from the ground or from the air is taken quickly care of by the Air Force. We just mentioned, Doron mentioned the interception of the Houthi missiles coming in at night, outside of the borders of Israel and outside of the atmosphere of Israel. This is part of the Air Force mission, and being able to project the power, whether be it in Yemen or Iran or the closer areas, thereby reducing the casualties of the ground forces and supporting them in whatever they need, either in Lebanon and Gaza. This had helped reduce the number of casualties during this war to a much smaller number than anticipated.
So let me ask Doron, because as the commander of the Israeli Air Force Air and Missile Defense Task Force, he probably has to go back to his duties very soon. What can you say about the level of cooperation with allied forces, especially those coming from CENTCOM, the U.S. Central Command? Is it up to par? Does it meet your expectations?
First of all, thank you, Amir, for allowing me to leave just before time, because we do have a meeting that I have to go through. But this is an important question, and for us, they are not allies. We have a sentence that or kind of a logo in between us, partners in peace, brothers in war. And this is how we feel toward CENTCOM, what is being done here in the region, in the defense, but not only in the defense with the CENTCOM, it's really super appreciated by us. CENTCOM is being led by General Kurila, who is doing it in a way that it is really inspiring to see the way that he's leading CENTCOM and the relations between him and the IDF commander Herzl Levy. We all look up to them, and at the end of the day, in all levels, we are working shoulder to shoulder in the Air Force, in the air defense, in some other areas of cooperation between us, naval intelligence, and others. Of course, when it comes to the defense of Israel, this is basically a joint array, a joint posture of defense. We have, of course, our own assets, the multi-tier defense of Israel, the Arrow, the David Sling, the Iron Dome, but we do have also our brothers enhancing the defense of Israel in the sea, in the land, with their own capabilities, the Aegis, the THAAD, and other means. And at the end of the day, we do see this combination to be very effective when it comes to the defense of Israel. We saw it on the 4th of April, but we see it all along the year, all along this war. And those are very, very close relations. Probably we never have been in such a close relations, fighting shoulder to shoulder.
Thank you very much, John
Amir,
Gavish.
I'm sorry that I do have to go, and allow me also to join you by saying to all of our viewers, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and we wish them a quiet, as much as we can, a quiet year, joy one, and I hope they will join their families in the next coming days, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, General Gavish, and thank you for yielding the rest of your time to General Shafir. He will obviously make good use of it. So, Relic, General Shafir, as you say, your grandson has just joined an elite unit, which means that generations come and go, and the IDF, and especially the IAF, which this unit is part of, is obviously making an effort to keep its proficiency and morale very high. Do they succeed in it? The various arms and headquarters, units, and trainers of the IDF, and particularly the IAF?
The idea that allows Israel to do well with the Air Force is that the first few years for pilots or for other professionals within the IAF, they would be active almost daily. That means pilots would be flying every day for a few years. And once they acquire their best flying skills, and that takes about 5 to 7 years of continuous flying, they could go to a desk job or a training as trainers, or go to civilian life and still fly at least 1 day a week in training, retaining their proficiency. Because the country is so small, nowhere does it take more than 2 hours to reach your active unit. So you might have, let's say, a 50-year-old F-15 pilot who's been in that particular unit for 25 years with the same group of people, the same heritage. So a lot of bonding is created through that kind of service and dedication to the people in the unit, to his friends and comrades, and obviously to Israelis. But the bonding of the unit itself is of great importance. And just think of a lawyer or a software engineer that gives up 1 day of work per week. He has to find a job that will allow for that, and actually work 4 days in his civilian job and come in for 1 day to do his Air Force training, 2 or 3 flights per that day. So that takes a lot of effort on his side, but the camaraderie and the ability to retain along those years the experience of those selected few who have the proficiency allows for a long-term of high-level proficiency. Just think that, let's say a new squadron commander that comes in, let's say at the age of 35, is certainly not the oldest in the squadron and certainly not the highest rank. That takes a special type of person to be able to command people who are older and more experienced than him. But the atmosphere is such that when a new commander comes in, he gets the respect of the older pilots, but he can use their experience and rely on them as he comes in and doesn't have to work with new recruits only. So these are a couple of the secrets of the Israeli Air Force. Don't tell anyone.
No, we won't. Only the many viewers who happen to watch our show. Thank you very much. As always, Brigadier General in the Reserve, Relik Shafir, a veteran Israeli Air Force pilot and commander, among many other feats, taking down several enemy airplanes, an ace, as well as one of the 8 Israeli pilots who took part in the Iraq raid against the Iraqi nuclear reactor in June of 1981. So thank you, and we will see you again on the other side of the weekend, and as this year comes to a close. And this has been Israel at War, an update from TV7 News Israel. We wish all of our viewers season's greetings, and we will be back shortly with another update. Shalom from Jerusalem.
For more of TV7's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com.